problem solving is something that schools generally don't teach you.
No, I'm not on medication. I'm on weed though, and I feel hella good.
Good morning! We're doing this vlog style so we can sit here and go over notes with coffee and PJs. I just got off the phone with my mentor and he's like, you should go over your notes and everything while it's fresh in your head after you just went over it with me. It sounded good. You can go over it now. It's like, okay. So we're going to go over it now. Now, he didn't say go get dressed and get prepared or anything. He said just, go over it. So, this is vlog style and everything. Yeah, we'll see how that goes over. So, we're going to go over my notes. So I thought we would just start going over notes and stuff. We'll see how far we get. Basically, we're going to start kind of going through Media Magic, As Above, So Below, and what Universal Studios is doing, alright? So, Universal Studios, Paramount does this a lot, but at most of the big movie houses, you'll see it now. Even smaller, like the movies you see on streaming will have a lot of these, like, symbols and things put into movies. And so we're going to go over that, and we're going to go over why they're doing this. So, I saw one video that came out recently, which was good, and everybody's loving, but it only scratches the surface about what's going on, and I'm going to link his video, but a lot of people get hung up on Aleister Crowley. A lot of people get hung up on, like, seeing the owl and Bohemian Grove and attribute that to one god, like Athena or Apollo, and sometimes it's not. For example, in Babylonian, this book, in Babylonian religion, paganism, some of those gods had owl symbols, and it wasn't Athena. Okay? And then what some of these people have a belief about one god, other people don't. Do you see what I'm saying? So, kind of like with what we talked about being Jewish, but also being maybe like Canaanite. And get Luciferian out of your head. Get Luciferian and Satanism out of your head. That's not the real stuff. When you hear Luciferian or Satanism, that's just going to scratch the surface, guys. Those are new terms that were coined in the last couple hundred years, okay? The real meat and potatoes, the real things you want to know are over 1,000, 2,000 years old, 3,000 years old, okay? This shit is way older, okay, than even what is recorded that I can prove to you that will be like kitchen table talk, folklore talk. And some of it is starting to come out. For example, I told you about elves and some of us people maybe not being humans, Don't think Nordic. We all hear Nordic, right? What were Nordics? Before Nordics, they were elves. They were elf people, okay? What were gray aliens? Before gray aliens, they were vampires. They were ghouls. They were trolls. They were, there's other, I have some mythology books, but aliens are a new way to brainwash you and con you into not looking for the ant people, elf people colonies underground. Now you think they're aliens. You're not going to go looking for them, right? They've always been here. They're like us, except a couple thousand years ago when they started getting hunted, persecuted, or feeling like they didn't want to be a part of human population anymore. Think Lord of the Rings, okay? The reason why some franchises become popular is because they're based off of some kind of belief, or they're a Roman a clef. A lot of these families, they love going to the movies. They love learning about their history. But they don't want people to know their history or anything, because knowing this stuff gives them like an advantage. Okay? These elf colonies and stuff, they feel like they have an advantage, you know, being off grid. And, you know, it's fun feeling like, hey, I got this technology and I'm flying through the sky and people think it's magic or an angel or something. It makes you feel powerful. It's kind of narcissistic, right? Yeah. And then, you know, they're also going to look a little off or uncanny valley, because it's just been a couple different gene pool, like families breeding together like dogs. I know it sounds bad. I guess Foodie Beauty's been using that term. If you guys know who she is, yeah, she's been using that term. I guess she saw my video, but yeah. So that's what happens. And then you get all these weird genetic things, which, you know, a lot of people have different beliefs or possibilities. We're going to be going over not like what I think is right, but what are the possibilities, because it doesn't matter what I believe or what just us general in the public here believe. These billionaires, like the family that runs BlackRock, or Larry Fink, is that his name? Those families, the Vivendi family, who owns a lot of the media in Europe and in Africa. So those types of families, the BlackRocks. There's a couple other billionaire names, but yeah. And then we got Universal, which is also owned by Comcast, which is partly BlackRock and stuff. I have it all in my notes. So let's see. So we're going to start with Universal. So Universal started as a propaganda. It's propaganda, okay? Universal Studios. Now, originally, so we're talking about Masons and stuff, right? Universal's always been ran by the Masons. Universal is actually a term that the Freemasons love to run, and they even have a branch, or one of their outfits is like the Universal Freemasons out of Colorado. And yes, women can be a Freemason. I suspect that Taylor Swift is a Freemason. Brother Taylor. These women will refer to themselves as brother. Okay? The man. The other thing too is that they're going through their degrees. If you're like, say, a Taylor Swift or a Jay-Z, and you're a Freemason, the way you level up is by putting the degrees of your symbol into your music and then putting it out. Because you're doing a lot of different things. For one, you're doing, like, I know they have their little rituals where they go around and they do the little walk thing and they do the thing in the temple and the 3 pillars and or whatever, right? Well, if you're doing it this different way, you're going to put it in your music. You're going to put it in your movies. You're going to put it in your art, your just anything, whatever you're creating, you're going to make and you're going to do. Remember, ancient Babylonia, originally, musicians were always a priest. They were a type of priest. To be a musician, an artist was to be a type of priest. It was never originally just this creative thing, you know. No, people who were creating things were seen as having a, like, they were like a portal to God, or the other side, or a channel, or whatever. Thousands of years ago, ancient Babylonia, think pre-ancient Babylonian, Sumerian, the start of our civilization. You know? So, a lot of this is the Freemasons, and then the Freemasons are connected a lot with a lot of the families that are they appear Jewish, but they're not. They're part Jewish, but they also have these other beliefs that are a lot older. A lot of this is because they want to fuse heaven with earth, and this goes back to Genesis 33. And Genesis 33 talks about Jacob and Esau. And I know there's more of it, but the gist of it is that some of these families believe that when Jacob and Esau were conceived, Jacob's a human and Esau's not. Because Esau was born, if you guys know, Jacob and Esau were twins, and when they were born, Jacob was born holding his brother's ankle, and Esau had red hair. He was born red and hairy, which is red hair, being red-haired, or, like gingers, is one of the genetics of one of the more prominent bloodlines, and that's supposedly one of the ones I'm a part of. And that's usually a lot of Spanish people will have this, of Spanish descent. And a lot of that goes back to Exodus. So part of the Jacob and Esau story was that Jacob tricked his brother Esau out of his inheritance of Israel for a bowl of red lentils. That he came in from the fields all tired, and Jacob was like, if you're so tired, I'll give you these red lentils for your birthright to Israel. And so there's a lot of these families who believe they got cheated out. So if you go look at Genesis 33, it looks like nothing. It's basically Esau meeting up with his brother Jacob, and Jacob being kind of nervous about it, but it working out. That was actually about how the descendants of Esau were going to enact a plan to take their birthright back. And that's not in here. That's not in a Talmud. That's not written down anywhere. That's our folklore kitchen table part. Is that there are bloodlines who, when they read Genesis 33, they read it as, that was when we decided you tricked us. You had bad intent, and now we have the right to do whatever we want to the descendants of your bloodline because you tricked us. Okay? And there's a lot of, little things that go along with that. Yeah. See? It's kind of weird, right? So, there's that. And so, a lot of these bloodlines at the top, that's just the gist. That is your basic, that is the most basic bare bones of that I can give you, right? So let's see how much further we can get. This is a lot, so that's why this is easier for me to just start talking through this. So, a lot of these people, over thousands of years, ended up Freemasons, and the people that, some of the billionaires that are backing Israel. So, when I say not everybody, basically, there's, less than 1% of people who support Israel that really know what's going on. It's less than 1%. And there's even, there's a billionaire who's a Russian billionaire. He's not even, from what I understand, he's not Jewish. I don't even think he's really a Zionist. He just pretends to be a Zionist. But supports Israel because of the security it can give him. Because he's from Russia, and I guess he was able to transfer money over. Some oligarch. So, a lot of these bloodline families, I don't even know, they love to believe the stuff that gives them advantages, that allows them to be assholes to us. But a lot of them are just using Israel as protection or as like a way to usher in their narcissistic beliefs. Because then a lot of them have this other beliefs about the third temple that I don't even completely understand, that are not in here, and you guys have all been, I've been told, lied to about. That what some people want the third temple to be is not what other people want the third temple to be. So there's multiple agendas, I guess, about the third temple and what people want that to be. And multiple beliefs about what it used to be. Some of them believe it used to be an old oracle temple. And I was told that the original priest bloodline for the temple, for these temples, has actually been lost, and they're looking for it. Because you need to have a certain genetics in order to interact with the Ark of the Covenant because of what it is. Because if not, it'll kill you. Like, you have to have a certain genetics, like, to withstand, let's just say hypothetically, some people could withstand certain radiations, right? Hypothetically, right? So, genetically, you need to have somebody of a certain whatever who could withstand that kind of radiation. Like, hypothetically. You see what I'm saying? That's a belief. Some of them have. And so, some of them will look at, I've seen the videos, you know, of they're saying this is the people who are going to be the next temple, third temple, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's billionaires who say no. They say, no, that's not actually it. And what Epstein was doing was looking for that and other people as well. One of the other things I was told, and Epstein has a picture, a painting of someone like me. You know, I've told you about my tumor. And then I told you about how we've done videos in the past kind of touching on this, about how back in the day, they didn't have labs, right? To process drugs, to schmugs, right? In antiquity, in like, you know, ancient like Babylonian, right? Well, you could use people to process it, right? Because the liver and all that could process it. And if you secreted it out in certain, like, let's say, milk, which if you have a prolactinoma, I never had this problem, but some women do, where they'll produce like they're pregnant, like they have a baby. You see what I'm saying? And so you could feed those women certain medications, and then you can take the milk like you would for a baby and consume it. Like a, you know what I mean? And then you would hallucinate because it processed. Do you see what I'm... Epstein had a picture, a painting of someone, of a priest woman, who had like one of her cantaloupes out. He also had some emails, if I remember, I'll put them up here. He was corresponding with a woman he was trying to help out who had my prolactinoma. I found out that a lot of the migraines I'm having, and they were even like saying what type of migraine it was, and then sometimes you'll get like fluid coming out, and I always thought maybe I was having sinuses, but it's like thinner, and that it's actually like extra fluid because of the pressure in the head. I was just like, what? And this woman was a researcher. She researched real ants. She would go around and research real ants, and was trying to help Jeffrey Epstein understand colonies of ants to help understand Hopi ant colonies, elf colonies, with that other scientist that he emailed all the fucking time, who was a creep. That guy's a creep. Creeper. So, yeah. Right. So what does this have to do with Universal? Well, Universal's always been propaganda. They're tied to the CIA, okay? Always have, still are. I know. And you guys have heard of Laurel Canyon, where they had the CIA house and they were using, like, music stars supposedly to disseminate that? Like, information, or using musicians as spies and things like that. I was told by my mentor that that's true. And that's something we'll get into as well. Laurel, like I said, laurels is one of their, one of the symbols. There'll be some words and things that you'll see pop up in numerous times, and it doesn't mean like, oh, they're Freemasons, but it just means, and you see a few more things and you go, and you see a few more and you're like, oh, this is gonna stop. Let me do the Petermon thing. Okay, I'm back. All right, so it'll just make you go, So anyway, so let's see. So yeah, that's why my mentor, he came up with this whole magic circle thing, is because it's not just like the Freemasons or Israel. It's a lot of different groups. It's also Scientology is a split off. Yeah, Scientology is one of them. Mormon, the Church of Mormon, is another one of these groups. I talked about Madame Blavatsky's The Theosophy Society. Patrick's family, at the beginning of the 1900s, before they moved out to California, actually met up with the Theosophy Society, and the Theosophy Society was starting different, like, little, like, groups, and they were getting people together, I think, to go. Some of the people were going to go live in the elf colony, one of the elf colonies here in the Southwest. A lot of people say Jeffrey Epstein decided to go to New Mexico because of Aleister Crowley and the Babylon working things. It's because there's colonies underground that they're trying to hook up with. And they have technology that they want so that they can make money off of it. And because we don't, in mainstream society, it's not accepted, but these billionaires and their secret groups, psychic abilities are accepted. Being telepathic is accepted. Being clairvoyant is accepted. Being able to predict the future with dreams is accepted. Being able to mess with people in their dreams is accepted. Sorcery is accepted. Witchcraft's accepted. It's all accepted. Being able to affect the world with a painting is accepted, which that's something I want to do today. Is I got oil painting. Chi told me it's time for me to start oil painting, so I got hooked up with oil paints and things, so we're going to be messing with that. One of the reasons why oil painting is oil, when you look at alchemy and there's different components, well, oil is one of the components that to, like, the soul. I know sulfur's another one, and you can infuse the oil with different things. And so they believe when you're using colors and using the oils to create a picture, it's more potent. Do you see what I mean? So people will infuse oils with different things. I've even seen where people, have you ever heard of money oil? Well, they'll rip up a dollar, or some people do hundreds, I don't know, and put it in an oil and then sprinkle oil, and it's like, I don't know why money's so dirty, but you know, you've heard of that kind of thing, right? Because of the essence. So one of the reasons why you've seen The Simpsons and, like, movies and things with all these symbolisms in is because they're programming us to with a lot of these symbols. A lot of these symbols, because we've seen them over time, when we see them enough, they will get us to do things like brainwashing, like A Clockwork Orange. You seen that, right? So one of the things you got to understand about, like, modern media is that it was... Okay, my mentor said the TV was created by the Nazis. And it was a way to, like, brainwash, and then they just used it as TV, right? They even had the, I shouldn't say Nazis, they had a base up in, before World War II, before they got kicked out, in Hollywood. And, two, one of the things that came out in the Epstein files, and we're going to get into more, is that we were caught up and screwed over in an elites war. And I don't mean just like, I mean like a billionaire's war in World War II, an agenda. And that's why we got a vlog, so we can keep talking about this. So, what happened to all of us and people in World War II is not what was really going on with these billionaires. And it all has to do with a long-term agenda of trying to bring heaven to earth, which is bringing God here, fusing the two, which I still don't quite understand would do for everybody, but they think it would make things better for them. And so, by showing us certain symbols, they're getting us to do things to participate in this. We're going to talk about 9/11. So, part of why you saw all these predictive things before 9/11, because that was their part of media magic. That was part of them ushering in heaven to earth. And part of that had to do with creating a mass casualty event. I don't understand it, but I'm told that some of these billionaires believe that back then they created media magic and did things so that they could usher that in, so that that could then usher in later this third temple to bring heaven to earth and make things better for these billionaires who believe that they're hybrids. And for some of these possibly colonies, I don't know what, I know there's dozens of these colonies throughout the earth that are underground in hiding, and they all have different beliefs about what heaven on earth would mean for them. Lord of the Rings, I touched on that. They partially believe that there was a time when their world ended and the beginning of the world of man started. Human, right? Where things like satyrs and elves and vampires all became myth. And they all had to go into hiding. And they believe by bringing, I think, heaven to earth, that they're going to get their time back. Which I don't understand, because they've been billionaires screwing us over and doing all these weird things and hiding. And it feels like we've gotten our time stolen. I've had people ask us what we can do. And I think awareness and not letting these symbols, understanding their symbols, because once you understand them, you can decide whether they're going to affect you or not. Like us all knowing what The Simpsons is. It's not predictive. It's to get you to do certain things and participate in making Trump president. And participate. So part of the 9/11 thing was that they were letting the people who committed what we were scared of and what to go after. They were showing them the targets. Like easy peasy. They were constantly showing in movies, this is our television. And even so much so, from what I've heard, these people heard rhetoric. Like, we've all heard that our government knew this was going to happen and didn't do enough to stop it in the 9/11 Commission report. Here's the other thing. Now, there's some guys I've seen on YouTube who did a lot of studying and stuff into the octopus murders. That happened down here with Danny Castellero. It was an unsolved mysteries. And Danny Castellero was researching this thing called the octopus, and he was murdered, and they made it look like but he was really So part of that was that there was this program that was created in the 80s called Insta. And it was created, it was the Promise software, and it was created by a company called Insta. And it was supposed to help, like, our government do, like, security and protect our government and stuff like that. And it did a lot of things, like AI type things, where you could ask questions about a country and it would be able to tell you all these different ops and shit. I don't really understand, but it was like a security thing. Well, our government decided that they would leave a back door open so that they could hack in and see what other governments were doing. Well, part of this secret, now part of this, they had to, in order to do this, they needed to illegally, our government illegally had to change the software on Native American land, which was done down here in where I live, in the Coachella Valley in India. And so these guys say that they don't think that the software change could have happened because of the computers that they would have had to use to change the software. But what this, they said they saw pictures of the reservation and that they were just trailers, and they didn't see how they would have these computers in these small trailers. Well, what you got to understand is that down here, the Native American, the Cabazon land, it's checkered throughout our valley. I'm going to put a map up. So even back then, there were like pockets of neighborhoods that were Native American land. Back then, there were people, because my dad was, I remember in the 90s mostly, my father was into the computer thing. There were people with computers like that in houses down here. Like, people would run businesses out of houses down here. And because of the way the Native American land, if you don't understand that it's all checkerboard out here, it is literally a checkerboard, that you can go like a neighborhood two over, it's Native American land, and then two neighborhoods over, it's just normal, and then next it's reservation again. There were parts of Palm Springs where there were markets, liquor stores, where you didn't have to pay taxes on, like, you know, like your ciggies and shit, because it was on Native American land. Down here in the valley too, if you come down here to Palm Springs, you don't have to pay California taxes on gas in certain parts because it's on a reservation. So, and by leaving this back door open, there was a spy who then sold these secrets that allowed them to spy on us, and the terrorists were able to get in for 9/11. Right? And this had something to do with this spy who sold secrets. So this was one of these other things that was left open, like a back door. Also, too, fake IDs and stuff was a big deal. And yeah, they were trying to crack down on that before 9/11, but they really weren't doing a good job. And I found some articles. Side note, related, Scooter Braun sold fake IDs before 9/11, but decided to quit selling fake IDs. And then 3 months later, his buddy gets busted for selling fake IDs. If he got busted for selling fake IDs after 9/11, he would be in federal pound me in the ass prison. Instead, Scooter decided, I'm going to get clean and I'm going to go into music. Right before his buddy gets busted in 9/11. I got my driver's license around that, I was in high school and it was right after 9/11. And I remember them telling us, don't get a fake ID. Even in high school, them telling us, don't get fake IDs. Because now, because of 9/11, you will go to prison. You will go to federal prison. It's not the same anymore. And then you think about Scooter going into music, right? How weird that is. And Universal, and how Universal's worked with the CIA to put out propaganda. Now, the way Universal, we'll get into a little of this and we can then talk about it later. We're going to talk about The Gatsby, Great Gatsby. You guys seen that? So, the guy who owned Universal, and actually he started the music part. What was the name of the music? Where's that at? Music Corporation of America. So, Dr. Jules Stein was an optometrist, who started Music Corporation of America. Sounds so basic. He started Music Corporation of America. And it was a talent agency in the 1930s. That long ago. In the 1930s for music. So, he wanted to go into music, this Dr. Jules Stein, but then realized he wasn't really good at it, and decided to go be an optometrist. Eyes. He's also a Mason from what I've seen, but the eyes are very important to the Masons, and they love, and we'll get into the one-eyed thing. I live with someone, so I know what changes that actually does to your body, and also to front head trauma can fuck up your brain, and it can do this thing where it actually makes it kind of like, you'll have some short-term memory loss and you'll have some issues, but it'll make you kind of like a savant in certain areas. So Patrick got better at math and things. It's kind of like Kanye. Kanye will talk about how he got hit in the head, but then he kind of got more creative afterwards and stuff. Front hemisphere lobe deficiency or something like that. I don't know. But it'll do something, and then the eyes too, because it takes in information. It does something else. It rewires your brain in a way. It's something that people would do thousands and thousands of years ago as like a body hack. Like the whole feeding people drugs as a processor. Hey! Cats. But, so he decided to be an optometrist, right? And then he decided to do music on the side as like a business. And so he starts doing that. And as they're doing music and representing talent and things, they then go into Universal newsreel. So it's Universal Picture. And Universal started off doing news for the war, for World War II. So they did propaganda. They originally did newsreel propaganda for World War II. The little reels they would show before the movies, they did that. And then they went into movies. And we're going to talk more about this. We can talk more about this later or tomorrow. I know this is getting long, but we'll get more into this. I got these notes because we need to talk about this. But you got the start, which also start looking at some of these billionaires' last names. A lot of them have a last name that means stone. Look at their last names, where they come from, and what they mean. Yeah, I'm just looking at this. But yeah, it was propaganda. And so Universal Newsreel turned into Universal Studios. And they acquired other music labels and things as they went along. Comcast is the parent company now of Universal Studios. Now, Jules Stein, he passed away. Where did he pass away? I don't have that, but I'll put some clips of him talking here. But one of the interesting things is that they were honoring him at the end of his life. He literally said, because he was also an optometrist, which Roman Eclefs, The Great Gatsby, at the beginning where they have the optometrist with the eyes and they reference that he sees everything, that was about him. Because the dude, side folklore, loved to spy on people. This is what Universal does. They work in with the CIA so that they can, hi Emmy, my cat comes running over here, propaganda. And so they can make us, believe whatever they want us to believe about whatever's going on so that we don't get upset and create unrest and question them. They don't like being questioned. The government, have you noticed that? They don't like it when we don't go along with mass narratives. Or they really don't like it when they want us to go out and protest and create unrest, and we don't. That too. They like it when you speak your opinion in a rational way and you're open-minded to other people's opinion. That's one thing we'll start going over, is how much these people love creating polarity, because it creates duality, which they think is going to help them usher in heaven to earth. That's all the goal. That's the goal. Is these top billionaires, it's how can we get heaven to earth? Boom, boom, boom. And usually following the money is the easiest way to do it. But yeah, so Great Gatsby at the beginning, that was about him. And at the end of this guy's life, he said he was concerned because he worked at UCLA. And he donated a lot of money to UCLA to cure blindness. He said he wanted to cure blindness so more people could watch his movies. Dr. Jules Stein, at the end of his life, said he wanted to cure blindness, not so people had the joy of seeing, but so that more people could see his movies, so that he could make more money. That man ran a company, and you listen to their music, you watch their movies, and that was this man's main concern. Running companies, and you watch all of their media with all of their symbolism. Yeah. I think we're going to start, I need to start in these vlogs, we're going to start doing maybe the symbol of the day or the word of the day. And one of them is universal. They love the word universal, and you'll see them use it in their verbiage. My categories. So this is getting long, and I wanted to do other things, so I decided to do the talkie talk at the beginning, like my cat, so that if you guys want to, fuck off after this, that's cool, because I get it, it's a lot, and some people just want to hear me talk about this. I'll probably talk more about media magic, and stuff, and what we can do with colors later on, and that they see that as encoding. But yeah, that beginning of The Great Gatsby was a Roman Eclef, which is taking something fictional but making it work for something real, so that you can be I'm making fun of you. Yeah. Oh, hey, Taylor Swift. It's really creepy. They keep saying, hey, no fighting. It's too early, guys. Hey, it's too early. Cats. Taylor, Zodiac Killer. Jake was in that movie. Everybody thinks Red Scarf's about him. I don't know, but it's so weird that everybody goes, she's like the Zodiac Killer. And it's he was in that movie. This is the double V for victory. That's what a W is. It's two V's together, double victory. Duality. Fuck that. They don't like it. They don't like it when you know their symbols and you deconstruct it and you don't participate in it anymore. No fighting! Cheers to that, bitches. This Poltergeist 2 and 3, they're free on YouTube right now. The group that is in Poltergeist 2, now remember Steven Spielberg, he's the one who did these Poltergeist movies. I know, I'm working on my art. It's coming along great. Learning oil painting. Oil painting, because of the oils, like I said, involved in the process, they believe that it's like alchemy. And I'm going to do my whole playlist thingamajigger thing for you guys so that you can see that what I watched and stuff like before. But I got a video about, there's a free book on the internet, What is Art? And it talks about art as alchemy. If I can link that book, I will do that because I think it's out of print or it's very expensive. But you can Google it and find it. And it talks about like oil painting as alchemy and why like a Leonardo da Vinci and stuff, they all did this stuff. So back to Poltergeist. Poltergeist, when they talk about in 2 and 3, the group that went underground and was led by a zealous leader named Cain, that's loosely a Roman eclef for Patrick's family. And at the turn of the century, Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophy Society was this, and I had to do a lot of research, but we all know Madame Blavatsky would talk about how she would talk to beings that lived inside the earth, where I don't think they're very magical. They're just people with some tech that live underground. And because they look a little different stuff, they can pull off saying we're aliens or elves. But because of their gene pool lacking thereof, they look weird. And they would be able to say, oh, look, it's us evolved in the future. It's not. Okay? Because these bases are in New Mexico and, bases. The colonies are in Arizona and New Mexico, and I think there's one in Nevada. There are a lot of them, okay? It's which ones are still have connections to us on the outside world, right? And so, a lot of times when they did the nuclear testing, they purposely did it near these colonies to try and wipe out some of these people because it was seen as a national threat. But they didn't want to say anything to us because we'd freak out thinking, oh wait, we actually have another nation living under our feet. Basically, there's another country living under our feet that does not play by the rest of the world's countries' rules. That's basically what's going on. And they have figured also out how to get people into government positions so that they can funnel our tax money to their projects. And they'll do it by Bradshaw Ranch. Bradshaw Ranch will say like, hey, we're doing these studies on these like plants and stuff, which one of them is a plant that gets ergot on it that you can make into LSD. Boom. Right? So if you look into it, it's a educational project that is funded by the same branch of the government that funds NASA. And so it goes to this project and they say like, we're doing research for the University of Arizona and we're studying these rare plants in this ecosystem. And so we have to block it off because it's this rare ecosystem and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's a great way to funnel money to people that are living underground there. I'll link those Bradshaw videos too, if I remember, Bradshaw Ranch in Arizona, but there's a base over there. The other thing too is like there's a lot of clues in like cities that are named. So like Oracle's over there. And then you look at all the weird names. I think my mom's blow drying her hair. household stuff. Why it's also hard for me to do the recording thing because, like, this afternoon, the reason why I didn't vlog, because my tumor got to me and I had to lie down. Wow. So, yeah, Bradshaw Ranch. So that's how they're getting money for some of these things. And then they'll trade, like, technology, like they said in Men in Black. Men in Black's another Roman a clef for making fun of the CIA and how sometimes they'll work with these colonies that are not really aliens, but they can get away telling some people they're aliens. Like they used to get away telling people we're mythical creatures. And so the Theosophy Society, part of what they were doing back in the day was they were trying to learn how to create a light body. Whatever that means, right? And I have some free books I found too that talks about creating a light body and the different colors and stuff. My mentor and me talked about this. One of the possibilities that people are seeing with orbs is that these are actually either people like us who have learned to meditate or do some kind of weird technology or something to create a light body to travel around in. And we just don't get it. The more you know, the more you don't know, right? 2, some people in these families and bloodlines believe that these colonies are also able to communicate with interdimensional beings because they're related. Because we talked about in the last vlog about how interdimensional beings, like Zeus or in mythology, when the Greek gods would manifest into reality and have children with humans, like Book of Enoch as well, that then somebody would be half demigod or half of something, and then or you would be a quarter of. I don't know. There's different beliefs about like the variations of how much whatever this is. I don't like saying divine. It's weird. This hybridization, whatever. And then we get people that are at these bases too, who will try to like, you know, integrate back in, or I've heard kidnap people and stuff. This is where we get the whole, I believe the story of Persephone and Hades, where he kidnapped her and took her to the underworld, basically, and made her his wife. Yeah. It's basically, that's an architect for something they do. They will kidnap women, men. You've seen certain people with certain genetics get kidnapped. Some people believe too that during the Holocaust, a lot of that was to weed out certain genetics so that they couldn't repopulate these colonies. And that this had something to do with the Rothschilds, because it came out in the Epstein files that the Rothschilds were actually that Schmittler was actually the illegitimate son of a Rothschild, and his mother was a maid. So, yeah. And that the Rothschilds were funneling money to him so that they could create polarization against, like, I guess, you know, non-Jews and Jews, because their whole, a lot of these higher bloodlines, and it says it in the Bible too, but they, you know, that to usher in this heaven and earth, there's going to be this whole war that happens before heaven and earth comes in the prophecy. And some of them want to push this prophecy. And so they want to create polarization. They will create scenarios in which the opportunity for these things will happen. And then they can be like, well, we didn't do anything, like 9/11. If you infuse in media a lot, like, hey, look, these buildings are very, very important to us. When you built them, you made a big deal about how they were built to withstand a big plane crashing into it because of planes. And then you made a big deal when it did get boomed in the 90s. And you made a big deal every time you showed the New York skyline. Here's these towers. And in media, you would show it getting destroyed, or you would Easter egg it in things, so that through all this symbolism, anybody who hated America knew that we love these two buildings. We love to see them in media. We love to celebrate them. You okay?
Sorry.
You're not dead?
Nope.
Okay. We love celebrating these buildings. You see? You see what I'm saying, right? So that's one way of helping this along. Creating a back door in this software for people to hack is another way. Letting it be easy for people to get a fake passport ID and get into the country. Having it easy for people to bring stuff on a plane. Having it easy for people to storm a cockpit. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like willful ignorance. There's a name for it. So this is how they do this. They will leave enough clues, enough doors, enough things. So, oops, I don't know how this happened. I don't know what we're going to do, guys. You see? You see. They even, like, it's almost like they knew, not like it was planned, but they already knew that there were people here who were going to go after those, and nobody was going to do anything about it because they were going to claim with willful ignorance that we were just busy and we just didn't have enough time to go after them. And then you'll also see a lot of people with the money who didn't like show up to work, and they were always on work that every day, and they just didn't show up, and they're still around today, still alive. Like you know how some people just didn't get on the Titanic. That was another one that they did, where they made a book about, somebody wrote a book about, you know, a ship possibly sinking. A lot of people talked about ships, you know, and how they sank, and, you know, the possibility, and made a book about it, right? And then it just happened to sink. It's like, and this is a part of their media magic, is they will almost create prophecies to fulfill these families and play the long game, and nobody notices it. You've heard Taylor, the long game with Blake. And I've even talked about the long game over here. Is some people don't play the long game. Like I said, some people, World War II didn't end for them. They're still in it to win it. It's scary. And for all of us that are normal, we just went back to our everyday lives, struggling to pay bills. And struggling to live this life, this bullshit life that politicians and billionaires have created, like BlackRock. Like I'm going to start getting names and naming them. And then they positioned all these people below them, like an MLM, who will protect them because they're dependent on the system, just like the quote in The Matrix. You know, in the quote in The Matrix, when they talk about teachers and it just normal folk, it's not the normal folk. It's politicians, it's movie stars, it's musicians, it's other lower, not so important billionaires that they'll kind of let in the club. You see, like a Jeffrey Epstein, like an Andre Blazal, like him. You see how that was working? So yeah. They will create things for you to look at like that. and Universal Studio will participate in it to help keep us fixed on, like, media, on the media, so we're not paying attention to certain things that happen. My mentor, and this is very controversial, Nancy Guthrie's, always follow the money. So, Nancy Guthrie's, her daughter works for NBC Universal. She does the morning show. NBC Universal, Comcast, BlackRock. Larry was in the Epstein dump. Same week that Nancy Guthrie's went missing. And we all just paid attention to her because it was just crazy, right? And it was a morning show lady. Now remember, her husband helped the Clintons as well. The Clintons who were in the Epstein dump pretty bad. Bill Clinton? Right? My mentor suspects that Nancy Guthrie's allegedly passed away on her own. That she allegedly passed away on her own. And they decided, you know what? We're going to use Mom passing away to our advantage. Mom didn't pass away. Mom went missing. Do you see what I'm saying? Now there's a new story for everybody to pay attention to, especially people like me who like to sit on live streams, people like that. And we're not paying attention to the Epstein dump, which I still was, because Hopi ant people, elf colonies? Yeah, I found that. My tumor was in that? Yeah. I'm lucky I didn't get kidnapped. Like, adult napped. And I think it's a good thing I'm going back to vlogging mostly daily. So, like, you guys see me not show up, you know what happened. So, I know this is a lot. This is a long vlog, I know. I just wanted to show you guys, you know, let you know. My tumor took me out this afternoon. But I'm painting. This red balloon that I'm painting, it's a red balloon. I had a dream. I've been writing down my dreams more. And that's a tip. Pro tip, guys. If you are into wanting to lucid dream more or learn to lucid dream more, start writing down your dreams first thing. The other thing that's good, a lot of people can't do this, but evolutionary wise, we're designed to have 2 sleeps in the night. So like they call it first sleep and second sleep, where you'll usually, like, say you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Well, when you go back to sleep, that second sleep is usually when you're going to lucid dream or have remember a lot of dreaming. So after that, when you first get up, start writing your dreams down. And after a while, you will start to develop more sense in your dream. And that's something that Chi-Chi's helped me a lot with, you know, because I was already, like, having dreams and stuff. It was like, well, if you do a little, you'll be able to do this. So, pro tip from me to you. You guys know I've always had crazy dreams. I'm writing them down, and then some of them, like, I'll just kind of try to decipher. And sometimes it's cool to see what, like, you took in sensory-wise throughout your day that comes up in your dreams later on. And it's helped me, too, with a lot of my night terrors and stuff to sort that out as well. So it's like I'm trying to make my night terrors and lucid dreaming, like, useful. Which that mall world shit, I think that's real. My mentor says, and Chi-Chi says, that's probably, like, the collective meeting up. Which that has a lot to do, too, with the hybrid thing. And there's studies that have been done on it. Like, if we're really connecting. And some of them believe that, like, Chi-Chi said that she believes that because of these colonies and things, and that some people, because of genetics and relations, that we can connect in the dream world and communicate. That's if you want to believe that or not. So, my battery's going to die. We can talk more about this in the next vlog. This is very long. Go back to painting, but you know, as always, all these stars are yours because I gave them to you. The more we know, the more we don't fucking know, obviously. And, I love you. Stay safe. And, yeah, playlist below. Night, guys.
Problem solving is something that schools generally don't teach you. You know, a lot of people don't have a good generalized approach to problem solving. They're not thorough, don't consider all the possibilities, prepare themselves with the right information. If you can develop a kind of generalized approach to problem solving, it's surprising how it helps you in anything.
I don't think. I know.
Every 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.